Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm back out in the field and I wanted to do kind of a two-part video here. One part is kind of going over my thoughts, basically a review of the Bongo Gear Becker Mark II Patrol Pack. And then the second part was going to be kind of going over the gear that I carry for a typical 3-day outing and then how I pack that in this patrol pack, because I think is that's an important I don't want to say it. It's important when you're selecting a backpack that it actually carries the gear that you're going to need in an efficient manner. And like I said, this is a patrol pack, okay? It's not necessarily a hiking pack, a hunting pack, camping backpack. It is a patrol pack. It was designed in the early 80s by Ethan Becker at the request of special forces and other combat vets from their experiences in Vietnam. They knew they needed something a little more suitable for dismounted patrolling in, the jungles of Vietnam, and that could really translate into any other kind of rural environment. Okay, and so the Bongo Gear version is an improved version of that original 1980s model. And the 1980s version was produced throughout the years. I know Blackhawk made one. I believe Eagle Industries made one. And so it was kind of produced at different times by different people. And then I believe kind of in the early 2000s, it was kind of phased out because Molly covered backpacks were becoming kind of the rage, so to speak. And you could basically put pouches wherever you wanted all over the thing. But I think what ended up happening was you ended up with a backpack that was covered in molly webbing that you really only needed one or two pouches on. And I think people, after they kind of went through that phase, started looking back at some of the older designs and realizing that they were very functional and utilitarian in that patrolling role. I myself in Iraq, and prior to that, I carried a medium Alice, even though there were other options out there, because it was large enough to carry what I needed without being too big. And it was set up in a way that I could organize that equipment somewhat efficiently. Now, I will say this, the Becker Patrol Pack design is far and above the medium Alice. And frankly, I was a young guy back then. I didn't know about the Becker Patrol Pack. And so I just had this medium Alice. Probably wouldn't have been able to afford one anyways, but had I known about it back then, I probably would have looked into one. And I know other vets of my era that did carry the Becker Patrol Pack and really think highly of it. So I have no doubt that it's a great design in a combat environment. And so the Bongo version took the original version and kind of made some good improvements to it. He did add some molly webbing because that wasn't part of the original design, but he did it in an intelligent way. He didn't just say, hey, let's plaster this thing with molly. But he did put some where it made sense. This pack is designed to carry, I would say, up to 50 pounds. It's not a big heavy weight. You're not going to carry, a mortar tube and rounds on it or any of that kind of crazy stuff. But it really is a lightweight patrol pack. And 50 pounds is actually a lot of weight in that regard, because your sustainment load and everything. I mean, I can come out here for 3 days easily with, and this pack won't weigh more than 30 pounds. And so to add another 20 pounds of basically food, water, and ammunition would be pretty easy to do with this backpack. It has a lot of expansion capability. Mine was bought 2 years ago. So I've had this pack for 2 years. I've carried it in multiple classes and, of course, multiple just outings of my own. Mine was the original OD green color that they still offer. And what I've done, because my area can be a little bit more of an arid area, is I've just taken khaki Krylon paint and kind of spray painted the pack itself. One thing that makes this pack great for patrolling is these external pockets. They're intelligently placed and sized. Let's zoom out a little so you guys can see it. And to carry the items that you need to get to during a patrol. So, you don't always want to have to be digging into the main compartment of the pack. Now, it is a bucket style pack where the lid lifts open and then you can put your items down in. So having these external pockets, these, this, and this, makes it to where basically that's all the stuff you need to get to during the day. And then when you get to wherever you're going to stop for the night or stop for a while, whether it's a patrol base or your camp, whatever the case may be, then you can dig into that main compartment in the center and get your sleeping gear out, change your clothes, grab some food, whatever it is that you need to do. But all the important stuff during the day, like water, maybe some rain gear, some light snacks. For instance, in mine, and I'll show you how I've got this packed in a minute, but I've got a bipod here, I've got some admin type stuff up here, rifle cleaning gear, water filtration, disinfection stuff. Those are all on the outside so I can get to them easily during the day. And then when I get to camp, then I'll set up my shelter and dig out the kind of camp items from the inside of the pack. And I believe mine is a first generation Bongo gear design, although it does have the upgraded shoulder harness straps. The original pack had just two individual kind of Alice pack style shoulder straps, and I really do prefer this style of yoke here. It does have a hip belt. It's an internal frame pack where it has a polymer sheet with an aluminum stay that you need to set up to your body if you get one. It's got, I can't remember what this webbing's called, but basically it's just webbing loop sewn down the sides so you can hook carabiners or bungees or whatever you need to in there. Now this pack, Tom, the owner of Bongo Gear, he didn't provide me with this pack. I bought this myself. He never knew me at that point, and then a couple years ago I kind of wrote a review article on it, and then we've kind of gotten to know each other a little bit since then. And so he did send me this item here, this green pouch. It's called the pack sack, and it's an accessory for this pack that just clips on, and I think it's a great accessory, and I would suggest getting one if you order a pack as well. It's just great. You can put your wet socks in there. If you're gathering tinder, I've put tinder in there. If you just get out of a rainstorm and your poncho is soaked, you can put it in there. It's just kind of a place to store wet items that you don't necessarily want to just jam back in your pack. You want to give that stuff a chance to dry out. It's also great in the wintertime. I've carried my crampons there, and so it's just a great place to stuff something. The pack itself has multiple, each side has a nice big pass-through behind these outer pouches, and then the pouch itself has a pass-through. It has a nice big storm collar, which I really like. That's something missing from the original Alice pack kind of designs. If you have a bucket style pack, I really like having that storm collar, and that gives a lot of expansion. And same thing with the pack itself. It has a lot of expansion. You can see these side compression straps. They're not really even tight, and I can tighten them up and make this pack a lot smaller for, say, a one-day patrol. Or if I need to expand it out for more than 3 days, I still have that capability. These front pockets also have pass-throughs as well. You can see here my shovel going down into one. And so I think it's just a great all-around pack design. In fact, I think it's probably the best lightweight pack design. The pack itself weighs 5.6 pounds empty. So it's not an ultralight backpack compared to what's out there right now, but I think it's a very reasonable weight for the type of pack that it is. To get the same level of capability out of my medium Alice, with attaching pouches and stuff, kind of like a Hellcat mod, I was basically pushing 10 pounds with that pack. And so here I'm essentially doing the same thing I used to do, but now I'm doing it at a much lighter weight. And I don't really think, if you're looking for a great general purpose pack, whether you're in a military context or in any kind of hunting, backpacking, bug out, survival, bushcraft, whatever it is that you're into, I don't think you can really go wrong with this pack. And the price, it's priced very fairly. I just looked this morning. This exact pack is $285 right now, which is a little bit more than what I paid for it 2 years ago, but he hasn't raised his prices that much, which is impressive considering the economy and the fact that his packs are starting to get some notoriety from certain groups that really know what they're talking about. And I'm not going to go into detail on the video about that, but to say they're getting some good professional recognition, not just random users like myself, but people that are doing things with their packs professionally, I'll put it that way, are really starting to acknowledge that these are really good packs. It's a great design. And so I think it's a fantastic buy. I don't think you can go wrong, and I really don't know if you can do any better, to be honest, for what this pack can do for you. Now, for me, I live up in Montana. We do get, of course, some pretty serious winter weather. And so I think of this as a 3-season backpack for me personally. It's great in the spring, the summer, and the fall, but I have that Becker pack frame from Hill People Gear, and that's kind of my dead of winter pack. I mean, if you're going to be moving on snowshoes or skis and packing big bulky shelter and clothing and warming layers, eventually this pack's going to be maxed out. It's not, you're not going to carry 200 pounds on this thing. It's a patrol pack though. It really was meant to move light and easily over the terrain on foot, in a patrol type context. And so it works awesome at that. Now I do use this still in the winter though, because basically my summer 3-day load, like what I'm going to show you today, is not really any different than my winter day load. And so this makes an awesome winter day pack. Now I don't carry as much food and stuff if I'm going to use it in the daytime, or in that daytime day pack kind of role, but basically it still serves me well in the winter. I just can't, I'm not going to strap my snowshoes on this very easily, and trekking poles and all that. I have other packs that'll work better for that. But if you're living in, kind of the southern 2/3 of the United States, where your winters may not be as extreme, I'd say this would be a 4-season pack for you quite easily. And obviously if you're living in the southern half of the country, this is going to be a year-round pack for you. I think it's a phenomenal value. I really do. It's anytime somebody has asked me, what pack should I bring to class? What pack should I get? This is always my first recommendation. So real quick, let's talk about the MET-TC. I like to do a kind of a quick MET-TC breakdown for people so they understand kind of what context I'm using this pack in, or any other gear. Okay, so first mission. My goal for this pack, why I use this pack, is to, so I can go out in the field for at least 3 days completely unsupported. That means I'm bringing all my food, all my water with me, okay? Not having anybody bringing me food or water. Enemy, really in this context doesn't really matter. So I'm going to put NA for that. Terrain and weather, though, is important. So like I said earlier, for me, this is for rural, pretty rural area out here. Patrolling, hiking, camping, whatever, in a 3-season, context for that 3-day ability. Or in the wintertime, it's a very well prepared day pack. I basically bring the same thing as I would bring in the summertime. And I figure that equipment combined with a fire, if I were to get trapped out in the winter for some reason, I would have enough stuff to make it through the night and not die of hypothermia, okay? And then finally, troops available and civilian concerns. Those are both NA, but I do like to just kind of go through that MET-TC analysis on stuff to kind of give people an idea of what I'm doing and why. So let's talk about some of the notable features. We've already talked about all the external attachment points and pass-throughs for larger items like trekking poles, axes, hatchets, my shovel there, etc. These packs are made in Colombia, to keep the price down in this economy. That's just the way it has to be. He does, I don't know if he's got them on his website or not. I'd have to double check, but I know he's also got an American producer if you require one that's berry compliant. And it's made, I believe, with all American made stuff too. But this particular one was made in Colombia. It's made with a very lightweight kind of ripstop material. It's not Cordura nylon, it's actually a polyester. And you know, Cordura nylon has its place and it's good and everything, but polyester is actually superior in a lot of ways because it doesn't absorb water and it doesn't stretch like nylon will. Now, some of the other models, I know, like the multicam version that he now sells, I know that one uses 500D and 1000D nylon that's American produced. The plastic hardware on this one is made in Colombia as well by a company, I believe, Jordeo. That's what he has on his website. And they seem to be a good quality buckle. Similar to an ITW, I would say. Pretty close. As far as I can tell, at least. I haven't had any issues with them. I haven't had any break. And what I do like is I believe these, where he's got them sewn on, if you wanted to swap them out to ITW split bars, you could pretty easily. So if that's a major concern for you, you can always just get some ITWs and swap them out. The zipper, there's not a lot of zippers on this model. He does have a model now where it has a side zipper here on the main compartment. This one doesn't have that. So really the only zippers are the top Claymore pouch here. And then there's another pouch under the lid that I'll show you guys here in a bit. And these are a metal zipper. I haven't had any issues. I'd say it's like a number 10 size zipper. And haven't had any issues with them. They seem to be holding up well. Okay, there's also, get my shovel out of the way. There's also this nice big loop panel here where you can put patches if you so choose. I've just got a couple homemade cat eyes there for nighttime navigation so other people can see me. So let's talk about these pockets real quick. You know, we've got these two very large pockets, one on each side. And they easily carry, you could probably put a 1.5 liter water bottle in pretty easily. You can see lots of room here. They have this huge strap that can expand way out. And I put my water bottles and any, like, you know, snacks in here. Just stuff that, quick energy and hydration. I also keep my titanium cup and water disinfection kit in here as well. So all that stuff is easy to get to while I am moving. So that's the thing, you don't want to have to stop every time you want to hydrate and just have to dig through a main part of your pack to get stuff out, because what happens then is you just don't hydrate. Of course, that's one of the great that's a great point to using a hydration bladder. And I do use those from time to time. So this does have a hydration port in the top and a hanger on the inside, so you can hang your hydration bladder if you want to. Now, I've kind of gotten away from using those bladders as much as I can. I prefer bottles, but they do have their place in kind of a desert environment. And so on the front here, we've got two more large pockets. They're pretty close to the same size as the side ones, but I think they're a little bit shallower. And this is where I carry things like my shelter kit and my folding saw. And then on the other side, I've got my poncho and my sil nylon tarp there. So items that I can quickly get to, that if I need to get out of a storm quickly and get a shelter put up, I can quickly do that, whether it's just throwing a poncho over myself and getting under a tree, or if it's late at night or late in the day and I need to actually set up shop for the night. Okay. Like I said, this is the pack sack, which is an accessory, and it's just a elastic. It's got an elastic band at the top, and you can put whatever you need to in there. A nice mesh pocket to help things dry out, or just to carry extra items. You know, I've used it, I think in previous videos, I think I showed where I was using it gathering up fire making stuff, and I could just stuff it in there, and it was kind of just drying out nicely as I was hiking. Okay, all the pouches have these really nice laser cut drain holes, so no metal grommets to rust out or otherwise fail at some point. Now, I think a lot of the details on this pack were really geared towards the jungle, because the owner of Bongo Gear, Tom, he's got pretty extensive experience in South America, Central America, down in the Amazon, and so he knows what he's doing. That's why he went with the Colombian company, he told me, to produce these packs, because they, living in Colombia, know how to make stuff that will last very well in the jungle. Now, where I live is a lot less humid, and it's dry, and so I don't have that tropical environment. But I think this pack would work good in any region, as long as it's the right size for what you're wanting to carry. Now, here at the bottom, I just use the main straps to hold my 3/4 length foam pad. There's also MOLLE over here on the belts, on the side of the belt, so that you can attach more water bottle pouches or any small accessory pouches if you'd like to. It's a very comfortable pack. I'm a big fan of, I used to be really big on external frames, and I thought internal frames were, because of some bad experiences I had with other internal frame packs, I didn't like any internal frame pack. The internal frame on this, like I said, is a high density polyethylene frame sheet with an aluminum stay that you bend to fit your back. And it's actually very comfortable when you set it up properly. If you're familiar with any Hill People Gear suspension, their frame and shoulder straps, then you're familiar with these. It's a very similar design. And, I think when something works really good and is done right, it's going to get, I don't want to say copied, but it's going to be replicated because it works well. And I don't think he's trying to rip anything off here. I think he's doing it because it's the right way to do it, honestly. I love how these yokes fit, whether it's on my Hill People Gear equipment or on this Bongo Gear one. I love how the frames work on both, because it's very ergonomic and very comfortable. And this pack, the Alice packs had a kind of a reputation, especially once people started to learn how to make packs correctly and ergonomically. The Alice system is not very ergonomic, and it's not designed to be ergonomic. You've got this external frame pushing, basically putting the pack bag further away from your spine, which creates leverage on your body. It's not a good design, okay? Where this internal frame, getting it as close to your spine as possible, is very important. And as I'm going to show you guys when I pack this here in a bit, keeping that load close to your center of gravity, keeping basically the center of gravity of the pack and the center of gravity of your body close to each other, is important for comfort. And it's a very comfortable pack. And what's cool is, because it is so similar to a Hill People Gear pack, you can actually use some Hill People Gear components on it. If you happen to like their shoulder straps better, or yoke better rather, you can of course change this out for one. Here I've got a set of Delta straps from Hill People Gear, and that's designed to pull the pack closer into my lumbar region, and that's a worthwhile upgrade. And then the Hill People Gear Prairie Belt will also fit. You can remove this hip belt just by opening up this Velcro pouch here, panel, whatever you want to call it, and the Hill People Gear Prairie Belt will fit in there. And so you can really take a great pack bag design, and with a few simple upgrades like these Delta straps. I wouldn't change out the shoulder yoke because I like this one. It works very good. But I do really love my Hill People Gear Prairie Belt. And if I was going to carry this pack daily for a while, I would just change this belt out for that one, because this one works and it's efficient. But to me, that Hill People Gear Prairie belt is like the Cadillac of hip belts. So to me, it's worth the money just to slap it on, and then you've just got an amazing setup here. Kind of the best of both worlds, really. So I've been singing the praises of this pack, but no good review would be complete without at least going over some of the lesser ideal or negative aspects. And so I'm going to do that now, and there's not very many. And what I want to preface this by saying is that I would buy this pack again, not in a heartbeat. Like, these cons are very minimal. And I also want to say that I know that my pack is probably from one of his first production batches, and he's been doing these for a couple years now, and I know that he is constantly improving. And so some of these might have already been improved on already, but I'll just go through it as I see it. Probably the number one thing that I would like to see improved, if he hasn't already, is the fitment of these pouch lids. And you can kind of see here on this side pouch here, this water bottle pouch, that how the lid comes down at this angle. The pouch does too, and there's just kind of there's not great amount of coverage there. Now, there is the drawstring, which does tighten it up somewhat. Okay, so there is the drawstring, which does tighten it up somewhat, but I would like to see this pouch lid come down about an inch and just have that much more coverage. That way, if this drawstring fails, or if you have a really thin item, you know, there's just no chance of it coming out of the pocket. And that's just kind of my own thing there. It doesn't really, I haven't lost anything. I haven't had any issues with that, but it's just kind of an improvement that I think they could make. Next, like I've kind of talked about, the belt, it's adequate and it works, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit better design on the belt, something a little more ergonomic. So that way you don't have to buy another belt if you're looking for something to fit you a little better. And like I said, you know, I'm comparing that against the Hill People Gear Prairie belt. So if you want to see an example of what I would consider ideal, go look at that. Up on the top lid, where that Claymore pouch is, this zipper pulls, they're kind of jangly. And in a tactical environment, that's not very good. Now, of course, the fix to that is to tape them or whatever, but to me, I would just as soon see, and I will do that eventually on this one, but I've left it so until I got this review done, so that people can see what I'm talking about. But I'll probably just cut these off and then put some gutted 550 cord with heat shrink and a knot. That's just what I like anyways. So that would be an improvement that could be made. And let me look real quick, double check my notes. On the inside of the pack, and I'll show you guys here in a bit, there are a few internal pouches on this back and sides, just big pouches. I would just get rid of those. I think that would help cut cost and a little bit of weight, because I don't really use them. It's a bucket style pack. I'm just going to stuff the thing from the top. Now, there is a pouch as well on the front of the pack, kind of be against the frame sheet. I absolutely would keep that. You know, if you're familiar with the Alice style packs, you know, in that main compartment, there was always that kind of radio pouch there on the front. I absolutely would keep that. I love putting stuff in there. But those side ones, me personally, oh, excuse me, I just smacked my mic. Me personally, I would get rid of them. But there's probably lots of people out there that like them. So that's just me, though. And other than that, it's an ideal pack. It really is. I haven't had any issues with durability. I haven't had any issues with stitching tearing out or the material rubbing through. Really just nothing. Nothing to complain about. I mean, even my improvements that I would recommend, like I said, I would still buy this pack even if they never made them. They're minor, but I felt it would be, you know, it's only fair to give a complete picture. Okay, real quick, guys. I got the pack unpacked, getting ready for the junk on the bunk video of how I packed for 3 days. And I just wanted to show kind of the interior of this pack now that it's empty. And so here you can see the hydration bladder hanger. And then that front pocket. And here's the frame sheet. And then it's got these internal pouches on the side. And they go all the way down to the bottom. I'm sorry, the side ones don't go all the way to the bottom, but they go about 3/4 of the way down. And they're nice bright orange material, so you could, in theory, use them for some sort of signaling. And then we have a very large storm collar at the top. So, you know, you could really overpack this quite easily if you wanted to. Lots of room for expansion. And then underneath the lid is this black kind of mesh pouch that has a zipper. And it's a pretty good sized pouch. It has kind of a nice padded material here, so it's somewhat protective. But I wouldn't put stuff like eyeglasses in there or anything like that. They'd get smashed still. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I didn't show you yet, except for the bottom. So the bottom of the pack also has MOLLE webbing and then the laser cut drain holes. And then what I did was just, when this comes from the factory, this bottom strap, which is the main kind of lid strap as well, it's routed through all that MOLLE, through all of these. And I just pulled it out so that I could create a loop on the bottom. And that's where I store my sleeping pad. And here you can kind of see a little more detail on the bottom side of that pack sack. It's got a nice elastic that comes up and is actually part of the elastic, I believe. No, it's not. It's separate, but just kind of keeps the pouch sucked nicely to the pack so your items don't fall out if you have anything stuffed in there.